Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here at Next to talk about web security. I'm Emily Schechter. I'm the product manager for the Chrome browser security team. We work closely with multiple teams at Google to improve both Chrome browser security and also security across the open web. And in turn, we pass on these security benefits to Chrome for Enterprise, and then develop additional enterprise-specific controls to better protect your users and your organization. So today, we're going to talk about why a safer web is important and what Google is doing to improve security for all of the web. Then I'll show you how many of these security features are applied specifically to Chrome, and you'll get some insights onto how you can make sure that your organization is benefiting from these security features. So as you look at your working environments and how employees are starting to work differently, you probably agree that our reliance on the web is only getting stronger. Because of the rise in cloud applications, with typically an average of 22 cloud-based apps per user, it's no wonder that people are spending more time using the web than ever before. So your web browser is no longer just a supplementary part of the desktop. It's where people are going to get their work done. So about 2/3 of workers say that they rely more heavily on their browser than they did 2 years ago for getting their job done. And while this opens up a lot of opportunity for more collaboration and flexible and more remote working, it does mean that IT needs to put a lot more attention towards what's going on in the broader web and how that can impact their organization. We know that security initiatives are top of mind for many of you today, particularly in enterprises. In a recent study that was actually conducted here at Google on the Gmail team, we saw that professional inboxes are over 6 times more targeted by phishing and over 4 times more targeted by malware than in our consumer Gmail user inboxes. And human attackers means that security always stays interesting. As IT makes headway in thwarting off some types of attacks, attackers continue to get creative and find new ways to exploit organizations. We saw that there was about a 17% year-over-year increase in malware attacks last year, which was up to about 9 billion attacks last year. And new threat types and vulnerabilities can present themselves quickly and without notice. So we saw examples like that earlier in this year. There was the Spectre attack, which exploits critical hardware vulnerabilities in modern CPU processors. So organizations face this new type of threat, and we had to respond quickly in order to ensure that their devices and networks weren't at risk. Ransomware, which you may have seen in the news a lot earlier this year, continues to be a major issue, and it can introduce malware that can encrypt files so you no longer have access. And in recent months, we've also seen attackers trying what's called fileless attacks, which don't drop malware, and they typically are taking advantage of phishing or hacked sites to infiltrate enterprise environments. So with so many different types of threat and attack vectors, enterprises are looking at their endpoint security strategy differently. So some top areas of priority around tools that they're purchasing are around malware detection, threat containment, and browser security. So security tools will continue to grow in importance, and IT will need to continue to invest in security. At Google, we believe that it's important to build a safe web experience for everyone, and we're committed to constantly improving the open web for consumers and for enterprises alike. And on top of that, we're continuing to improve our built-in features for our products like Chrome to give enterprises an added layer of protection. So at Google, we are combining our powerful machine learning capabilities with the scale of our products to help protect our users at scale. We're constantly evaluating our risks, and we're working with the broader web community to help increase security for everyone. And as we make the web a safe place, enterprises will benefit. We also look at our security enhancements, and we consider when we need to allow IT to configure policies around them. So today, we're going to look at some of our services and initiatives that can give enterprises like you an added layer of security. I'll focus on features that protect the web and that are paving the way for a safer internet. And I'll talk about how many capabilities are incorporated into Chrome browser to give you foundational browser security. So Google and Chrome specifically are in a really unique position to improve web security. We're no strangers to threats and attacks, and the usage of Chrome gives us scaled knowledge about how users can be prevented from exposures to attacks. So every minute, 6,000 instances of unwanted software are reported to Chrome users and nearly 1,000 instances of suspected malware. So we're able to identify these threats, and then we're able to ensure that users are warned before they're exposed to such attacks. Google Safe Browsing, you may have heard of it. It's an anti-malware and anti-phishing detection and prevention technology that's actually free and publicly available to the web community. So every day, more than 3 billion phones, laptops, tablets, and other devices are protected with Google Safe Browsing technology. And Safe Browsing automatically alerts users of dangerous and deceptive sites, which prevents them from being exposed to malware, phishing, unwanted software, and social engineering attacks. And so Google is learning, we're using our machine learning capabilities to identify potential risk factors, and then we're passing those warnings on to users. So for enterprises, this means added safety that's built right into Chrome. Safe browsing is automatically turned on with Chrome to warn users about suspected phishing and malware sites. So soon, you'll also be able to view and utilize stats on employees that see and circumvent these warnings. And you'll be able to plug these logs into your existing reporting tools and your existing tools for more visibility. And you also have options in policies to make sure your employees don't turn off safe browsing in Chrome settings. Or you can turn off safe browsing altogether. And you can manage this through group policy or the cloud management capabilities that we launched earlier at Next. So you may have seen safe browsing's red warnings already, but if you haven't, this is what they look like. So here on the left, you can see policy options for IT admins that can be set. So this view is from the Google Admin Console. And then here on the right, you can see the full page red warning that users see when they encounter a phishing or a malware page. So many Google admins are using this to manage their browser instances. And if you were in the Chrome browser roadmap session earlier today, you probably heard that the ability to manage Chrome from the cloud across Windows, Mac, and Linux is coming soon. So this policy and other security policies that are discussed today can also be managed through group policy objects if you prefer to use Active Directory. And at the end of my presentation, I'll give a link to all of our policies where you'll find links to each of these so you don't have to write them down. So you just saw how safe browsing can help protect your employees from phishing and social engineering sites. Successful password phishing means stolen credentials, which leads to account compromise. And once an account is compromised, the attacker can see or do anything that's allowed for that user account. So the higher the privilege of the account, the more valuable it is to an attacker. So if an attacker compromises your network administrator, then the attacker would have free reign over the entire network and its applications and the devices. So even if a user isn't phished, account compromise can happen in other ways. For example, if a user is reusing their corporate password in some other random web service, and then that web service has a data breach, then an attacker could try that password into the corp login and then gain access to the corporate account. So we can take a look at a new policy feature that we're launching for enterprises that helps prevent account compromise to support the efforts to mitigate the damages of having a corporate account phished. So many of you may have heard of the Password Alert Chrome extension. It's been a popular extension for enterprises for the past few years to protect Google accounts. We actually also use it in Google Corp. And we're happy to announce that we're going to be adding Password Alert as a policy that's native to Chrome browser. So it allows IT to designate corporate accounts, both Google and non-Google accounts, where password protections will be put in place. So I will show you how Password Alert works. Okay, so here you can see that the admin is setting this password protection warning on. And now on an employee's computer, they're on some random travel website, and they're entering their corp password, which they're reusing in this site. They're only supposed to be using it on their corporate account. And so the full page warning is triggered, which tells the employees they just entered their corp password onto some site that didn't belong to the organization, and instructs them to reset their password. And then the employee starts the flow to actually reset their password. So that was the user experience of the password alert policy. And in the background, IT is actually able to fully manage this. So using group policy templates that are available in the Chrome Enterprise bundle, you can easily enable the policy, and you can define the sites and also determine the workflows that you want in place to protect your corporate password. So it's not only Google Password, but other core passwords as well. And this is available in Chrome version 69, which is being released in September later this year. So now we can talk about another initiative that Chrome is investing in to make the whole web more secure, which is the evolution to HTTPS. So HTTPS is important because it protects site data from network-based attacks. So with HTTPS, no one else on the network can see site data as it travels back and forth on the network. And way back in 2014, we started publicly discussing a plan to mark non-secure HTTP sites as actually not secure in Chrome. And this not secure warning is actually starting to show on all HTTP pages in Chrome 68, which rolls to all Chrome users today, which is really exciting. And since our public announcement, we've seen a huge increase in HTTPS usage on the web, in particular with some of the web's top sites. So here's a view of how much HTTPS usage we're seeing in Chrome over the past few years. So these lines represent the percentage of HTTPS page loads that we see in Chrome on Windows and on Android. This graph is actually publicly available in our HTTPS transparency report, which is online, and it's constantly updated. So you can see how much adoption is growing. And this benefits the whole web, right? Not just web usage in Chrome, but through any browser. But as an enterprise, if you have unique needs for internal or third-party apps that are delayed in migrating to HTTPS, we built in a policy that allows you to remove the warnings in Chrome 68 from specific sites that you designate. And we think that this should help support you in the transition process as you migrate them to HTTPS. So I just talked about web encryption, which can help keep your user data and sensitive employee information secure on the network. But encryption is only a small piece of keeping your organization secure. When new CPU flaws called Spectre and Meltdown came out earlier this year, it felt like a wake-up call for a lot of organizations and at Google, because machines around the world were at risk. And so with both existing threats and new unknown threats, we want Chrome to offer another layer of protection. So in Chrome, we reduce the ability for malicious code to spread with defense in-depth mechanisms, and in particular with sandboxing. So if you haven't heard of sandboxing, Chrome was originally built with tab sandboxing. It's been part of Chrome since the very beginning. And so each tab runs in a separate process, which means that what's happening in one tab doesn't affect another tab. So if you have your bank website open and then a malicious website open, they're running separately within Chrome. And then with site isolation, which is a new security advancement in Chrome, we officially turned this on by default, actually, in the most recent release of Chrome, which was 67. So the defenses in depth go a step further by actually isolating sites even within a tab. And site isolation was a huge project. It took over 5 years to complete. And it's extremely well-aligned mitigation for Spectre, because there will be less interesting information within a process. And these protections now happen automatically as long as you're in 67 with no policy setup needed from you. But if you are in a previous release of Chrome, you can turn it on with the enterprise policy that's been available for a few releases. So one of the best defenses for enterprises is to have the latest security updates for your browser. And while other browsers might require manual patching, Chrome has auto-updating on by default. And we're also working on fast, continuous release cycles. So the frequency of our updates and releases means that you have fast protection from known vulnerabilities and security issues. So Chrome is leading the pace in browser updates, and we always do encourage auto-updating as a best practice. But we also know that some enterprises have unique testing or internal requirements that may make it challenging to stay on the automatic update model. So we do have an option to manage updates by policy. And I encourage you to attend a session, it's actually here tomorrow at 11 a.m., where my colleague Jeff will be talking through your options for managing updates, while still maximizing the security that comes from our development model. So security has been a core pillar of Chrome since the beginning, and the security research community has been key to strengthening Chrome security. We're extremely appreciative of the work that's done by external security researchers. They report security vulnerabilities to us, and the reports really help to keep our users safer. So in late 2017, we announced that we've given a total of over $4 million to researchers through our Chrome Vulnerability Rewards program since it launched in 2010. And of course, we're also happy when motivated experts aren't able to find security issues. At a competition called Pwn to Own 2017, which is an industry event where security professionals come together to try to hack browsers, Chrome remained standing while many other browsers were successfully exploited. And in 2017, more than 1,200 awards across 60 countries were issued to the research community across Google products. So we encourage any of you here today to check out the rewards program if you're interested and to try to find security bugs in Chrome. So now let's take a look at our most recent and also our upcoming Chrome security features. We're constantly working on new security features for consumers and additional new security policies for enterprise. My colleague, Phil, who is the product manager for Chrome Browser for Enterprise and somewhere in the audience right now, led a session earlier today that covered a lot of these enterprise security policy features. And in case you miss it, here are some of the highlights from this year. So site isolation, which I previously mentioned, it's a massive improvement to Chrome's defenses in depth by putting each site into a separate process. And site isolation became available for enterprises by feature policy back in January, and it became default on for all Chrome consumers in Chrome 67, so ideally everyone is already benefiting from the new capability. So Chrome extensions come up a lot when enterprises consider security. And the security and the extensions team are really working closely together to improve extension security. We introduced a policy earlier this year that allows IT to more granularly control what extensions are allowed or restricted. And it's now based on the permissions that are requested by that extension. So for example, if an extension that was once allowed suddenly starts requesting permissions for the machine's camera, if the policy is enabled and camera permissions are restricted, that extension will no longer be able to run at all. Chrome also leads in developing and supporting the latest security standards and protocols. So we're now supporting TLS 1.3, which is the most recent version of TLS, and also the NTML v2 authentication protocol. We're also making changes to how third-party software works with Chrome. So ultimately, this will really help improve the stability of Chrome. And we encourage you to work with any vendors that rely on injecting into Chrome processes, because Chrome will start blocking any third-party software that tries to inject code into Chrome process. So definitely work with any third-party vendors to make sure that they're aware and preparing for this change. So now we'll go into a more detailed timeline and roadmap for upcoming security features, so you know exactly what will be changing, when, and also how to configure it to work best for your organization's needs. So I mentioned this earlier. Back in 2014, Chrome posted a proposal to mark all HTTP pages as definitively not secure, and also to remove secure indicators for HTTPS pages. So HTTPS usage on the web has taken off as we've evolved Chrome security indicators. So throughout this year, we'll be taking several more steps along this path. So I mentioned previously that Chrome 68, which actually rolls to all stable users starting today, all HTTP pages will be marked as not secure with this gray text and information icon that you see here on the left. And users should expect that the web is safe by default, and they'll be warned when there's an issue. So since we're now marking all HTTP pages as not secure, we'll step towards also removing Chrome's positive security indicators so that the default unmarked state is secure. So we will roll this out over time, starting by removing the secure word and the HTTPS scheme in September 2018, which is Chrome 69. I'm not showing it up here, but it basically will look like a green lock without the word secure next to it. And finally, in October 2018, which is Chrome 70, we'll start showing this red not secure warning when users enter data onto an HTTP page. And eventually, we'll roll out this red warning to all HTTP pages, but we don't have a timeline for that yet. And again, for enterprise customers that need more time to manage this transition to HTTPS, we are offering a temporary policy that removes all of these warnings. The Chrome team and the web PKI community converged on a plan to reduce and ultimately remove trust in the Symantec PKI. After it was discovered that the Symantec PKI didn't adhere to industry standards that are designed to uphold users' security and privacy standards when browsing the web. So this plan was arrived at after significant debate on the public Blink Dev forum. So if you're interested, you can go look at all the debate that happened. And it allows for reasonable time for sites to transition to a new independently operated infrastructure. And actually, during this time, Symantec sold their whole infrastructure to DigiCert, who's picked up the responsibility of transitioning affected sites off of the affected infrastructure. So starting in Chrome 70, which comes out later this fall, connections to sites using Symantec HTTPS certificates will display a certificate error, like the one that's shown here on the left. And if you need to check if your certificate for your site will be affected, you can visit your site in Chrome right now and open up Chrome DevTools, and you'll see a message in the console that will tell you if you need to replace your certificate. And enterprise customers who are unable to migrate off of the Symantec now DigiCert PKI certificates in time can use an enterprise policy to temporarily disable this. But the policy isn't permanent, and right now it's set to expire on or around January 1st, 2019. So for 20 years, Flash has helped shape the way that you play games, watch videos, and run applications on the web. But over the past few years, Flash has become less common. So 3 years ago, about 80% of desktop Chrome users visited a site with Flash each day. But today's usage is actually only around 6%, and it's continuing to decline pretty rapidly. So what this trend shows is that sites are migrating to open web technologies like HTML5 to replace the usage of Flash. And HTML5 is much faster and much more power efficient than Flash. And it's also much more secure. We see lots of security issues with Flash over the years. So you can be safer while shopping or banking or reading sensitive documents. And technologies like HTML5 also works on both mobile and desktop, so you can visit your favorite sites anywhere and it should work. And next year, in July 2019, Flash Player will be disabled by default in Chrome. But enterprises will still be able to re-enable it throughout the remainder of the life of support of Flash, which was announced to end in December 2020. I also mentioned this before, but roughly 2/3 of Chrome users, Windows Chrome users, have other applications on their machines that need to interact with Chrome, such as accessibility or antivirus software. And in the past, this software needed to inject code into Chrome in order to function properly. But unfortunately, users with this software that injects code into Windows Chrome are about 15% more likely to experience Chrome crashes. And we think that with new technologies like Chrome extensions and native messaging, there are now modern alternatives to running code inside of Chrome processes. So as I mentioned, we will block third-party software from injecting code into Chrome starting in September. So fewer crashes means more happy users, and we will continue to make Chrome better for everyone with improvements like this. And while we encourage enterprises to move away from apps that inject into Chrome processes, we understand you may have some applications that need extra time to migrate their functionality. So you can set a policy to set exemptions for a limited amount of time to make this transition easier for you. So today I shared a lot of information about how both Google and Chrome are driving forward features and standards that promote a safer web for everyone. And we also consider enterprise implications of our security features and the standards that we support and provide additional policies. So hopefully you found this session useful as you map out your organization's plans around security. So from improving built-in Chrome protections to moving the web ecosystem towards more safe and secure sites, both Google and Chrome are working hard to make the web secure by default. So here are some helpful links if you'd like to learn more about Chrome browser. We have many great resources that you can access, including a policy list that mentions all of the policies I talked about today, and release notes. In particular, the release notes give you a lot of visibility into new functionality and changes pretty far ahead of time so that your organization can be prepared for upcoming features and changes, like all the things that I mentioned today. And if you would like to continue to hear more about Chrome Enterprise, our team is presenting throughout the week on various topics around Chrome browser and Chrome OS. So please feel free to join us, check out all of these sessions. In particular, I mentioned the one about Chrome browser updates, which is useful for security, tomorrow at 11. And we also have several members of the Chrome browser and Chrome Enterprise team that are here today, including browser specialists and other product managers and members of the deployment team. And we're all here and available to meet until the next session, and we're going to end kind of early. So if anyone has specific questions, please feel free to meet us up here near the stage. We'll just stand right over here. We're happy to address any questions one-on-one. Thanks, everyone.